Pre-game show. What are we thinking today, guys? This event was long rumored, long anticipated. The most prevalent rumor, of course, being the introduction of a new updated iPad Pro. Of course,
The rumors are true. I'm not even going to touch it because it just says something about Thunderbolt port, which is the same as USB-C, but a little bit faster technology, and OLED, which makes absolutely no difference to me. If those are the only bumps, especially, and I guess, and as usual, a new bump in the processor, but won't be as much as we'd seen in the past. I mean, if those are the only things where they're going to improve on the iPad Pro, I hadn't planned on touching it anyway until 2022 when true 5G was supposed to come to it anyway.
Right.
I'm hoping for another product, the Apple TV with
Lynn,
a new remote. With a new remote.
Lynn.
Yeah.
Do not hold your breath on that one. We've been seeing a rumor about that one for the last 6 years. Although if they do come out with one, I will only buy one, since the rumor is next year or sometime later this year we're supposed to have the HomePod Apple TV combo, supposedly.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. What we do know fairly certain. I mean, of course, Apple doesn't discuss anything unannounced. We all know that, and things could change on a daily basis. But it is pretty solid. We have it on pretty solid evidence that there is a new Apple TV in development. It just may or may not be today that we see one iteration of it. And I'm basically pretty certain that we're not going to see that HomePod Apple TV combo yet. I have to wonder if that actually caused a delay. When Apple decided to discontinue the full-size HomePod, was there a bit of a shakeup there that then caused the delay to say, well, let's develop this,
If I had to guess, I'd say we'd probably see that HomePod Apple TV combo October, November, around the holiday time. That's what my guess would be.
At the earliest. And honestly, to me, that's almost a bit optimistic too, because that could take a while to develop. But yeah, I mean, November would definitely be a reasonable target date there. I think, it'd be cool if they had an intermittent one. There's a lot of talk about
Yeah, you've been talking for a while that they, a lot of people, or not people, but developers and gamers have been complaining about the lack of storage and processor power on the current Apple TV for Apple Arcade games.
Well, the rumors are calling it AirTags. I don't know if that's the name Apple's going to choose to use, but that's what the rumor mills have said. And it's interesting, Lynn, I assume, of course, that you already have seen and gotten some info about the Find My network so that third-party devices can work with your Find My app. And so even, regardless of whether Apple releases its own AirTags hardware today or anytime soon, there will be item trackers that you'll be able to get that will integrate into the Find My app the way that the AirTags are rumored to do. It is indeed, supposed to be an item tracker. It's supposed to work in the Find My app. I mean, it's being developed exclusively for use in the Find My app, so with Apple products.
Different color iMacs. Now, we don't know if number one, that's going to be presented today, and two, if it's going to have a M1 or your buddies over at Intel's latest chip, since they've been promoting their latest chip with a MacBook Pro.
Is the either the release or at the very least the availability date of updated operating systems, basically iOS 14.5 and its siblings, and possibly the macOS Big Sur. What is it? 11.3? Remember, we're just a little bit away from today's spring-loaded event. You can stream that event by simply launching the TV app on any of your Apple products.
And won't it be on Apple.com also?
It'll be on Apple.com, and it'll also be on YouTube, actually. So there's 3 different ways to live stream it. You mark my words that if Apple does announce an Apple Silicon iMac today, you will see within minutes my iMac on sale. I will be selling that iMac in favor of an M1 or M whatever they're going to call it.
Now, as a teacher, I'm just checking on the curricular alignment with this Apple event versus their virtual schooling.
Yeah, right, Tim.
Well, I always tried to convince my wife that she should have her students watch the Apple events, but as a math teacher, she would never go for it.
I think that's the story that you're telling your wife, so you can get away with watching it while you work. Hey, Tim, real quick, what do you think is going to be released today?
It's all guesswork because Apple's really good at that. Overall, like we've been talking about the AirTags forever, which they're not a big deal. I'm hoping the new iMac comes out, the M1 iMac.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
I'm not sure, but I would like to see it come out because I need to buy a bunch for school here, and I'd rather buy them now before school starts instead of.
And just remember when you're buying them for the school that you just accidentally on purpose just send one to Minnesota, and I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's schooling going on here in Pennsylvania too. No, but and of course, I don't know if you were here at this point earlier, but we said, we know there's an Apple TV in development. We're not certain that it'll be today. We don't have a lot of evidence suggesting that, but Cliff and I both also really excited about whatever happens with the next iteration of Apple TV, I guess.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too because I think I'll wait on that. Although not that my TV will handle anything that fancy anyway, but the TV's good. The TV's going to die sooner or later, and I got to get something, right?
Then you got it. That's right.
We'll be back as soon as the Apple event ends.
Okay.
All right, everybody. We'll see you soon. Speechless is the word. In spite of everything that Apple announced today, I think the biggest thing that they need to be commended for is the degree of secrecy this time.
And seriously, they did not disappoint.
Not at all. This has been, we were amazed. I mean, the kids and I, all three of us, and the expectations leading up to this event were really tempered right off the bat.
Amazing.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Tim, I want to get your completely unprompted reaction too, but I've got to ask you this question first because you are a heavy Mac user, and I love the Mac, and I will be getting the iMac. But I got to go back to the same question I've been asking you at like every single event for the past 3 years. Now, iPad Pro, why would I buy, and I'm not criticizing Apple, I mean, this is just awesome. I'm saying, why would I buy a MacBook Pro when I could get this iPad Pro with this gorgeous display, with an M1 chip, with Thunderbolt, with everything that it's got, plus have cellular capability?
It depends on your use case. Like for doing some of the fancy stuff that you're going to do, let's say with Adobe products, your iMac or your MacBook Pro, especially with your M1 MacBook Pro, is still going to outperform the iMac Pro or iPad Pro guaranteed. Now, your display on that iPad is just amazing, which doesn't affect you or I, but it does affect the people that'll be doing things with something like Adobe Premiere or something like that. But let's say from a blind person perspective, I think you've got a point there. Like, what is the need? Now, for me, I just find it much easier to work because I'm so used to using my MacBook Pro.
Well, right, and there's always that personal preference. But now, talk to me about the one outperforming the other. Is that because of software at this point? I mean, is the M1, according to what you know, is the M1 on the iPad Pro identical to the M1 on the MacBooks?
That I'm not sure of. I don't think that it is, though, because like you've got an M1 on a MacBook Air and you've got an M1 in a MacBook Pro, and I guarantee that the M1 on your MacBook Pro is going to way outperform that MacBook Air. It's just the processing power, the speed between your
He's right, because my
different
my wife has the Air and I have the Pro, and when I'm on her Air, I'm like, why is this thing? I mean, it's not slow, but it's slow to me because I'm used to my Pro doing stuff a little bit faster. So he is right about that.
So
and
is
some
it?
of it is just the speed between things, like between your GPU, between your CPU, GPU, and different things. It's your whole bus speed. It's everything because it's a system on a chip, right?
Right, right. So that's what I was going to say. So it's the same number of cores, same neural engine, all of that, but perhaps different clock speeds, things of that nature, bus speed that would
Yeah,
alter that performance ever so
correct.
slightly. But by the same token, we have to say
So is it
across
safe
the
to
board,
say? Sorry, Matt, but I want to piggyback off this. Is it
yeah.
safe to say, Tim, that the iMac will outperform the Pro?
Yes.
So the iMac will
It would.
outperform the MacBook Pro. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, but then for those that are wondering, based on all of the things that we know across the board, any of these iPad Pro, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, they're all going to be usable, of course, for even advanced video. I mean, well, you can do advanced video editing on any iPad at this point because of,
Yeah.
but I mean, multiple streams. There's nobody should shy away from, maybe it's unfair to say there's no need for the MacBook, but nobody should shy away from any of these if they want to save a little money or if they prefer a certain form factor. All of these things are going to give you a pro level experience, then, at least to some degree.
Exactly. Like I have a 27 MacBook Pro Intel, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 SSD, and I also have on my desk behind here a MacBook Air M1, and it's only got 8 gigs of RAM and a 128 SSD, which the size of the SSD matters not, but you're talking. But that M1 MacBook Air way outperforms the 2017 MacBook Pro with an Intel chip in it, 16
So
gigs of RAM as well.
as a voiceover user, although I mean, because I do use iMovie and GarageBand and all of that, as a voiceover user, when I order my iMac, am I safe to order one with 8 gigs of RAM, or do you think it's worth the extra to go up to that 16 anyway?
It depends on what you like, how long you want that thing to last.
Okay, well, that's
I
yeah.
always, 8 gigs of RAM will do the job just fine for
Okay.
90% of things. If you're going to do some major iMovie stuff, or in 3 years when Super Big Sur comes out,
Right, right,
that 8 gig may not cut it, because it's the same when we
right,
had our MacBook Airs back in 2013 or 15, and it
right,
had 4 gigs of RAM. We thought that was amazing, but
right.
somewhere around 2017, 4 gigs just wasn't cutting it anymore.
No.
Right.
And 8 doesn't cut it on an Intel Mac at this point, but
Yeah.
I figured that it probably would on an M1 Mac. Tim, is there anything else that you want to add? Anything that struck you? Anything you want to share with everybody?
Just the product line there. I'm pretty excited about the new Apple TV as well.
Yes.
I want to see what that new remote is.
Man, with
I'm
the
not
Siri button on the
likely.
side, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm not likely going to be buying one right away because, as I said earlier before, like my TV wouldn't. It's not in need of anything new. As soon as that TV dies, then I'll do that. But I may just buy the remote, and because I'm sure it'll connect to my existing Apple TV, since the other one,
That was the next
I've got
question
a
I was
chip on.
having for you too, Tim. Do you think that Apple keyboard with Touch ID will be able to be paired with, because like we talked about in the pregame or pre-show, whatever you want to call it, some people like to pair Apple keyboards with MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros because, one, they don't like the keyboard or it's too small, or two, they just want to be a little bit more versatile. Do you think that those keyboards should pair and Touch ID work with MacBook Pros and MacBook Airs?
Not initially, I think, because it's going to have the communication chip in there, this for the secure enclave, unless they did it and they just didn't tell us. But I'm assuming that, being that it has the communication on your existing one, I don't think there's going to be the external communication module. Now, they may be able to do something, whether it be software or put an extra one in there, but I'm sure that at the moment that Touch ID won't work on the external. Now, overall, would it matter that much? Because you could just touch your finger on the existing Touch ID, right?
Right. I was just saying because you know how some people are. They just like it
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a question. Yeah, that'll definitely be a question. And I'm sure, a great place to look for that will be Mac Rumors and those kinds of websites. Over the next few hours and certainly over the next few days, we're going to see tons of additional clarifications come to light, I think, on a lot of things. Let's just recap for those who didn't get a chance to see it or who might have missed something. The event started out after a brief discussion of environmental progress, which in and of itself is interesting. I don't mean to diminish that, because Apple is carbon neutral at all of its major, headquarter facilities and what have you, doing 100% renewable energy, and they plan to be completely carbon neutral everywhere by 2030. That's a very awesome and admirable goal. The first things they actually announced were that Apple Card can now be used by spouses and any family member, I guess, over the age of 13 or 13 and older. And you can even set spending limits for kids and stuff. Don't have a lot of details on that yet, but again, we expect to see some clarification.
And that might open up some other doors too. Maybe they'll finally start to give us a accessible or solid way of sharing Apple ID, since more couples are doing that. So we'll see.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So that was the first one. And then we did hear about an Apple Podcasts app redesign and also an Apple Podcasts subscription. Then it was AirTag. Now, these are going to be $29 a piece, or you can get a 4-pack, which will save you about $20, I guess. Yeah. And they are really cool. One of the things they're going to have is this ultra wide band support. So if you have at least an iPhone 11, you can use the AirTags in a more precise way to find whatever you put them on, your remote, your keys, your wallet, whatever. They are releasing a new Apple TV 4K. It will be available to pre-order April 30th, and it will ship the second half of May. It is going to have the A12 Bionic processor. In and of itself, as far as I'm concerned, that's enough reason to order it right there. A12 puts it on a whole different plane, and it will provide, I think, a lot of future stuff. It's hard to say what new features of tvOS 15 or beyond will require that A12 Bionic processor. The A12 Bionic, for reference purposes, is the same processor that is on the current iPad 8th generation. It's the same processor that's on the now previous generation iPad Pro, the 2020 iPad Pro. So that's a big upgrade to the processor. It's also going to enable new resolutions of HDR, high dynamic range video, and presumably improved audio even. It's also going to feature a new color matching feature that's going to allow you to use your iPhone to tune your television color correction, basically. That's going to, for those who can see it, improve the quality of the color and the picture on your display on your television. And then, of course, the Apple TV will have an entirely redesigned remote, which we already talked a little about. And it will have a power button and a mute button. So the iMac is now going to be available in several different colors, depending on which model you get. 4 colors in the lower priced one, and I think 6 or 7 colors in the higher priced one. It's a 24-inch display, a 4.5K Retina display with True Tone, which means the color temperature will adapt automatically to its surroundings. You are going to have the M1 processor, which is, of course, very important. And there are going to be, let's see what else, all kinds of new connectivity, a new magnetic power cable, of course, a whole new camera system, whole new microphone system, so 1080p camera, and the studio quality 3 microphone array, as well as 6 speakers. So that promises to be really, really awesome. Wow. And it's the thinnest design of an iMac that there's ever been. I mean, a completely redesigned form factor. And we also have new keyboards. This is important, too. There are 3 new keyboards. There's a new Magic keyboard, and they're all color matched, by the way. There's a new Magic keyboard. There is a new Magic keyboard with Touch ID. And then there's a new Touch ID and numpad keyboard. this iPad Pro that's been announced for 2021 is truly in a whole new category. First of all, it features the M1 processor, the same as you're seeing on the MacBooks, the iMac. Now, as Tim pointed out, there may be differences in the architecture that are not immediately apparent in bus speed and things of that nature, but it's still the M1 processor. It's still that 8-core processor with that 16-core Apple Neural Engine. It's still the incredible graphics. So you've got this now in the iPad Pro. You've also got 5G for the first time in the iPad Pro for the cellular models. In addition to that, we have a new camera system, including a redesigned true depth camera on the front, which features this new feature called Center Stage that allows this. It automatically pans to keep the subject in view. I think that was just on the front. I think it's an ultra wide camera. It will zoom, and if someone else is in the photo or video, it will zoom out as well to fit both you and that person in it. So that looks really neat. Also, the iPad Pro now has a Thunderbolt port, and that enables a whole new range of accessory connectivity. Then we have to talk about the iPad display. So the 11 inch is a gorgeous liquid retina display, but the 12.9 inch, this is where it really shines. For those who can see it, if you were getting an iPad Pro, I really think this would be the way to go, because this 12.9 inch is the XDR display, as you might see in the 27 inch Apple Pro display XDR, or whatever the screen size is of that. So this is a 1,000 nits, 1,600 nits brightness. This is a whole new level of display for an iPad, and really for any device. I mean, there's no question that the iPad, any model, has already been the best tablet around, but this just takes things to an entirely new level in so many ways, and really is the ultimate device, I think, for someone who needs that kind of power, needs that size of a display, and you still have the benefit of the Wi-Fi plus cellular. And they're still saying all-day battery life. It was proclaimed years ago, iPads get 10 hours on a charge, and that still seems to remain true across the board on all the iPad models in the family. And of course, the newest iPad Pro now also even includes a 2 terabyte storage option.
Apple went above and beyond, like you said, Matt, with the secrecy, number one. And this is by far probably the best keynote they've ever had of any company so far in 2021.
We really do appreciate you joining us, and thank you so much.